Hi there. I wanted to talk about a weapon build real quick. Um, a lot of people in the clan and alliance are starting to get into longer disruptions, and I wanted to talk about some build variants. Uh, the meta build right now is heavy slash damage. I'm seeing a lot of you run convectrix, which is incredibly popular. A build similar to this. Um, Maybe you're using vigilante armaments here and like a fire rate. Here you would want to use a fire rate. Shotgun based, absolute slash goblin, tons of damage. Um, you also have the flux rifle built for radiation, the tenet variant, very, very, very good. Uh, Most of the builds require the flux overdrive. Flux rifle unique mod. If you don't have it, go run some index. I know with Barrow Tenocon coming up, you could use it. Just make sure you get a flux rifle. Make sure not to dissolve it. You need it for this build. Very, very heavy on slash. Uh, if you are looking to min max, do the Tenet flux rifle. You want the highest percentage you can, so ideally 60%, with the progenitor element of radiation. Though this one is for heat, I was doing something else with it, but just saying it like it is. Something like this. But I want to talk about a different weapon today, the Panthera, which is a prime weapon that is very, very, very slash heavy, which is also a candidate for longer disruption missions where you need to be able to deal tons and tons and tons of slash damage. You're going to use a build something like this with like a heavy primer. Um, Epitaph is still kind of meta. Something like this. You want the faction. This one's set up for viral heat, so you get your triple stat. Let me just show you what the Panthera can do, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Zaku's a real strong Demolist killer. You can also run like a support Zaku using its AoE armor strip. But basically, you're going to shoot the head, alt fire. Takes a second to build up, but the weapon deals a tremendous amount of damage once stacked. And it does need its stacks. Using Zaku's 1, we're going to force the headshots. 74k. Not anything to write home about. And there you go. We got stacked up and we did 680. 93k. 372k. And it's the alt fire that's dealing the slash procs. 526. And I wanted to talk about this weapon for a bit because the other weapons, the flux rifle, not necessarily, but the convectrix, does require a more expensive build, especially if you're missing one of the mods. 266 slash proc, 100k, 503. So half a mil will definitely do some damage to an endgame Demolist, especially because that's just with viral stacks from the Panzer. As soon as you use like an Epitaph to prime, you'll do even more. But this weapon, the main shot doesn't do, the main primary fire doesn't do that much damage. But the thing is that the primary is 70% slash, still pretty good. 50% crit, 54% crit, 54% status chance, and a 4.4 crit multiplier. But that's not why I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to talk about the alt fire. The alt fire is pure slash, and it's got a pretty decent base damage on it, 240, and that's going to help you a ton with your slash. This is going to be the sort of build that you want to use because we're not dealing damage with the secondary or with the AoE. We can utilize galvanized aptitude, so we got multi-shot, 100 munitions just for more slash. Crit damage, crit chance, our faction, some multi-shot, fire rate, all the basics. You could even do like vigilante supplies, as this does sip ammo compared to, say, like the flux rifle or the convectrix. But the big difference is this weapon, in order for it to do its high damage and slash, does not require arcanes. So if you're struggling with arcanes, and you don't have the convectrix specific mod, which a lot of you I know don't, this is a very strong weapon that is not as strong as the convectrix or the flux rifle for dealing with Demolus, but is still very good. And just to show a little bit more potential, I have a Riven that's status chance, more faction damage to Grenier, and more fire rate. Just to show a little bit more of what it's capable of. Get everything stacked up. $700K. That guy just kind of popped. $56K. Saw a bunch of small guys on a 166. That was half a mil. $108. A beefy 1 mil. $414. $340. $736, and that's on one single slash proc, so it's definitely Demolist endgame viable. If you wanted to improve the build, you could use like an arcane acceleration. You could helmet Zaku's 1 onto like an Ash or an Ash Prime, and take advantage of Ash's passive. Highly recommended. And use this combined with, say, like an arcane lockdown or anything of the sort. But this weapon is definitely endgame viable for Demolus. It's not as good as the other ones, for sure, but definitely for your consideration. But obviously it's going to be harder to do the higher slash procs with the less statuses, because the Riven's giving me double faction, and it's putting me at, what, 97? And more fire rate and status chance, so it puts it to 102 status chance per instance of damage. So the first slash proc, say, is like 500k, and that would be like, what, 2 million damage a second. That'll get you to endgame, especially if you're able to strip armor, if you're using like an Ash or whatnot. And that's before Ash's passive. So for your consideration, thank you for listening, and I hope this is helpful.